Your eyes burn every night before bed. You blink and the world goes blurry for a second, maybe two. You chalk it up to screen time, to exhaustion, to getting older. But there's a reason nobody told you about, and it starts with something sitting in your fruit bowl right now. There's a quiet kind of fear most people never talk about. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind that shows up in emergency rooms or urgent phone calls. It's the kind that creeps in when you're reading a text message and realize you have to hold the phone a little farther away than you used to. When you're driving at dusk and the road signs blur just enough to make your stomach drop. When you notice, really notice, that the world isn't quite as sharp as it was 3 years ago. And you don't say anything. You just adjust. You squint a little more. You increase the font size on your phone. You turn on brighter lights when you read. You tell yourself it's normal. Everybody goes through this eventually. It's just what happens when you get older. But here's the thing most people don't realize, and it took me a very long time to understand this myself, even after years of clinical practice. What you're calling normal aging in your eyes is often not aging at all. It's depletion. Something is running out inside your retina, quietly and relentlessly, and almost nobody is doing anything to put it back. That distinction matters more than you think. Let me explain exactly what I mean. About 6 years ago, I came across a study from the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition that completely shifted how I thought about eye health and its relationship to sleep. It wasn't a flashy headline, no miracle cure splashed across magazine covers. Just a small, rigorous clinical trial that tracked what happened when participants ate 2 kiwis 1 hour before bed, every single night for 4 consecutive weeks. That's it, 2 kiwis. What happened stunned the research team. Total sleep time increased significantly. The time it took participants to fall asleep dropped by over 35%. Sleep quality, measured by validated questionnaires and wrist-worn actigraphy monitors, improved across nearly every metric. But the part that truly grabbed my attention wasn't the sleep data at all. It was what nobody in the research community seemed to be connecting at the time. The link between this particular fruit and what's happening behind your eyes during those critical hours of sleep. Let me back up for a moment because this is important. Your retina, the paper-thin layer at the back of your eye that converts light into the electrical signals your brain interprets as sight, runs on a very specific kind of fuel. 2 pigments, actually, lutein and zeaxanthin. These aren't ordinary vitamins you'll find on a standard nutrition label. They form what's called the macular pigment, a microscopic yellow filter that sits right in the center of your visual field, in the most critical part of your retina called the macula. Think of it as biological sunglasses stitched directly into the living tissue of your eye. This macular pigment does 2 critical things that most people never learn about. First, it absorbs high-energy blue light before it can damage the delicate photoreceptor cells underneath. Every single time you look at your phone screen, your laptop, a fluorescent office bulb, an LED headlight, blue light penetrates your cornea, passes through your lens, and slams into your macula with surprising force. Without enough lutein and zeaxanthin sitting there as a protective shield, that light reaches cells that were simply never designed to handle that much daily exposure. Second, and this is the part that makes it genuinely urgent, those same pigments function as powerful antioxidants inside the retinal tissue itself. They neutralize what scientists call reactive oxygen species, unstable molecules that damage cellular structures. In simpler terms, they clean up the chemical wreckage that accumulates every single day just from the basic, unavoidable act of seeing. Now here's where it gets deeply uncomfortable. Your body cannot manufacture lutein, cannot manufacture zeaxanthin, not a single molecule, ever. You have to get them from food, every day. And most people, are not getting anywhere near enough, not even close. The average Western diet provides maybe 1 to 2 milligrams of lutein daily. Researchers have consistently suggested that truly protective levels likely require at least 6 milligrams. Some peer-reviewed studies suggest 10 or more. That's a massive gap. A chasm, really. And it's been widening for decades as modern diets shifted relentlessly toward processed food and away from the pigment-rich plants our ancestors consumed daily without thinking twice about it. So what does this have to do with kiwi fruit? Everything. A gold kiwi, the yellow-fleshed variety with a smooth skin, contains a concentration of lutein that's unusually high for a fruit. Not just present in trace amounts, genuinely concentrated, paired with zeaxanthin, paired with vitamin C at levels that surpass oranges by a significant margin, paired with vitamin E, paired with a unique combination of polyphenols that actively enhance carotenoid absorption in the gut lining. But it's not just that kiwi contains these nutrients, it's how they arrive together. In a natural matrix of fiber and enzymes that deliberately slow digestion, letting your intestinal lining absorb the fat-soluble carotenoids far more efficiently than you'd ever get from a supplement capsule or a processed juice from a carton. Whole food synergy. That phrase gets thrown around constantly in nutrition circles. But in this case, the clinical data genuinely backs it up. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Science found that regular kiwi fruit consumption raised plasma levels of both lutein and zeaxanthin measurably over a period of weeks. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily, consistently, in a way that accumulated specifically in the macular tissue where those pigments are needed most, exactly where the damage happens. And this brings us to the sleep connection. Because here's what most people miss entirely, what almost no one talks about. Your eyes don't rest when you close them, not really. During sleep, particularly the deep, slow-wave stages of sleep, your retinal cells undergo an elaborate process of self-repair. Damaged outer segments of photoreceptor cells are shed and replaced with fresh material. Inflammatory byproducts from the day's light exposure are cleared. Oxidative waste is processed, packaged, and removed by specialized cells called retinal pigment epithelium. This nightly maintenance cycle depends on two things happening simultaneously: adequate sleep quality that's deep enough to trigger the repair cascade, and the presence of raw materials your body needs to actually complete the repairs. If you're sleeping poorly, tossing, waking at 2 in the morning, never quite reaching those restorative deep phases, your retina doesn't get fully serviced. The damage doesn't get cleaned up. It stacks. Night after night, week after week, month after month. And you don't feel it happening. You don't notice a thing until one afternoon you're squinting at the menu at a restaurant, struggling to read the appetizers section, and a cold little thought whispers across your mind. Something is wrong with my eyes. This is precisely where kiwi does something no other single fruit does as efficiently. It addresses both sides of that equation simultaneously. The serotonin content in kiwi fruit is among the highest of any commonly available fruit in the world. Serotonin is the direct biochemical precursor to melatonin, the hormone that governs your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle, the very architecture of your nightly rest. But unlike popping a synthetic melatonin tablet, which floods your brain with a single isolated compound at an arbitrary dose, the serotonin from kiwi is converted gradually, naturally, through your body's own enzymatic pathways, in a way that mirrors your endogenous rhythm. The result is profoundly different. You don't just fall asleep faster, you stay asleep longer. You cycle through sleep stages more completely. And more critically, far more critically, you reach the deep sleep stages where retinal repair actually happens. Simultaneously, the lutein and zeaxanthin you absorbed from that same fruit are being delivered to your macula through the bloodstream, arriving right as your eyes enter their nightly maintenance window. It's like sending a repair crew into a building at midnight and making absolutely sure they actually have all the tools and materials they need to do the job properly. That timing matters enormously. That's not something a supplement swallowed at lunch can replicate. Not even close. I had a patient, Colleen, 53, a ceramic artist who works under intense studio lights 8 hours a day, firing stoneware and mixing glazes. She came to see me not about her eyes. She came because she couldn't sleep. Hadn't slept through the night in 14 months straight. Tried melatonin supplements, 3 different brands, 2 different doses. Tried magnesium glycinate. Tried lavender oil diffusers. Tried blue light blocking glasses she wore every evening after 7. Nothing moved the needle. Nothing. During our conversation, she mentioned, almost as a throwaway comment, an aside she barely thought worth mentioning, that her vision had been getting cloudier over the past year. Little halos around streetlights at night when she drove home from the studio. Trouble reading the small print on glaze labels she used to read easily from across the room. She assumed it was completely separate from the sleep issue. Just another thing falling apart. It wasn't separate, not even slightly. I suggested something almost embarrassingly simple. 2 gold kiwis, eaten about 1 hour before bed. Nothing else changed in her routine. No new supplements, no prescription. No sleep hygiene lecture. Just the fruit, consistently, every night without exception. 3 weeks later, she called me on a Tuesday morning. Her voice sounded different, lighter. She was sleeping through the night. Not every night, but 5 or 6 nights a week, which for someone who hadn't slept unbroken in over a year was nothing short of transformative. And the part she couldn't fully explain, the part that made her voice catch slightly on the phone. The halos were softer, fading. The glaze labels, she could read them again from 4 feet away. She said it felt like someone had quietly cleaned a window she didn't even know was dirty. Now, I want to be completely honest with you. I have to be. Kiwi is not a miracle fruit. It's not going to reverse advanced macular degeneration in someone who's already lost central vision. It's not going to cure cataracts. That's not what I'm saying, and I would never claim that. What I am saying is that your eyes are very likely starving for specific protective nutrients, and your sleep system is begging for natural biochemical precursors. And this one unassuming fruit happens to deliver both, in precisely the right form, at precisely the right time, in a combination that your body actually recognizes and knows how to use efficiently. And the science keeps building, year after year. Researchers at the University of Otago in New Zealand, where kiwi fruit has been studied more extensively than anywhere else on Earth for over 2 decades, have demonstrated that the total antioxidant capacity of kiwi exceeds that of most commonly consumed fruits. Not by a narrow margin, substantially. The combination of vitamin C, vitamin E, lutein, zeaxanthin, and specific polyphenols creates what researchers describe as a synergistic antioxidant effect. An effect that's measurably greater than the sum of its individual parts. Let me say that differently, because it's worth pausing on. It's not about any single nutrient working alone. It's about what happens when these compounds arrive together, in the right biological ratio, wrapped in the right cellular matrix, delivered inside the right package. Your gut absorbs them differently than isolated supplements. Your bloodstream distributes them differently. Your retina incorporates them differently. The whole system responds differently. This is what decades of reductionist nutrition completely missed. We spent an entire generation isolating single compounds. Take this lutein pill, swallow that fish oil capsule, try this vitamin E extract, and then scratched our heads wondering why the results from supplement trials never quite matched the epidemiological data showing that people who simply ate whole, nutrient-dense foods had dramatically better eye health and sleep quality across their lifetimes. The fruit is the delivery system, not a bottle on a shelf. And there's another piece to this puzzle that honestly makes me pause every time I think about it. Oxidative stress in the retina, the slow, invisible, cumulative damage from daily light exposure, chronic low-grade inflammation, and normal metabolic waste, is now firmly recognized as one of the primary driving mechanisms behind age-related macular degeneration, AMD. the leading cause of irreversible vision loss in adults over 50 throughout the developed world. Here's the stark reality. There is currently no cure for the dry form of AMD, which accounts for roughly 85 to 90% of all diagnosed cases. No medication reverses it, no surgery fixes it, no laser treatment restores what's been lost. The only intervention that has shown consistent, reproducible evidence of slowing its progression? Nutritional support. Specifically, sustained intake of lutein and zeaxanthin. Think about that for a second. Really sit with it. The #1 cause of blindness in older adults across North America, Europe, and Australia. And the most evidence-backed form of protection comes from nutrients found abundantly in a fuzzy little fruit you can pick up at any grocery store for a couple of dollars. 2 of them, eaten before bed, every night. That's the intervention. I'm not saying it's the only thing you should do. Of course not. Protect your eyes from excessive UV and blue light exposure. Wear quality sunglasses whenever you're outside. Get regular, comprehensive eye exams. Not just the quick vision screening at the pharmacy, but a dilated exam where someone actually looks at your retina. But the nutritional foundation, the raw biological material your macula needs to keep rebuilding its protective pigment layer night after night, that part is non-negotiable. And the uncomfortable truth is that most people are walking around in a deficit they don't even know exists. If this is landing for you, if you've been noticing that slow, unsettling creep of blurry vision, that growing frustration of eyes that feel gritty and exhausted before the afternoon is even half over, I want you to know something important. You're not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. Your eyes are genuinely asking for help in the only language they have. And the simple fact that you're here, listening, actually paying attention to what your body is trying to tell you, instead of just ignoring it, that already puts you ahead of most people who won't address this until it becomes a crisis. If this kind of information matters to you, take a second to subscribe to this channel. I share things here that I genuinely believe can shift how you understand and protect your own health. That's not a slogan. I mean it. Now, there's a compound in kiwi called actinidin, a proteolytic enzyme that's essentially unique to this fruit. And it does something remarkable in the digestive system. It enhances protein digestion and accelerates gut motility in a gentle, non-aggressive way. Why on earth does that matter for your eyes? Because nutrient absorption happens in the gut, period. If your digestive system is sluggish, chronically inflamed, or compromised by years of processed food and medication use, and in a startling number of adults over 40, it is, you can eat all the right foods and still fail to absorb the critical compounds your retina is desperate for. Actinidin helps break down the fiber matrix of the kiwi itself during digestion, releasing the embedded carotenoids and vitamins more efficiently into the intestinal lumen, where they can actually be absorbed. It's as if the fruit arrives with its own key to unlock its own nutrients. I've never encountered another fruit that does this, honestly. And the fiber profile of kiwi, containing significant quantities of both soluble and insoluble fiber, feeds the beneficial bacterial colonies in your colon that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Those fatty acids do something critically important. They reduce systemic inflammation throughout the body. Chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that simmers beneath the surface without causing obvious symptoms, is now implicated as a contributing factor in both persistent sleep disorders and progressive retinal degeneration. So even at the gut level, even in a biological system seemingly disconnected from your eyes, this fruit is quietly working on the problem from a direction you would never expect. One fruit, 3 interconnected systems: sleep, eyes, gut. All connected in ways that conventional medicine still treats as completely separate departments with completely separate specialists who rarely talk to each other. I remember sitting across from Colleen during her 8-week follow-up appointment, watching her describe how colors looked different now. Richer, she said, more saturated. The deep reds and cobalt blues in her ceramic glazes, colors she'd been mixing for 30 years, suddenly looked alive again. The way morning light came through her east-facing studio windows in that golden hour. She'd genuinely forgotten what sharp, vivid vision felt like because the decline had been so unbelievably gradual. Like someone slowly, imperceptibly, turning down the brightness slider on a screen, one fraction of a percentage point at a time, over the course of years. That's the particular cruelty of macular pigment depletion and early-stage degeneration. It doesn't announce itself with pain or dramatic symptoms. It whispers, it creeps, and by the time most people finally pay attention to that whisper, finally admit something has changed, years of entirely preventable damage have already accumulated in tissue that doesn't regenerate easily. 2 kiwis, before bed, consistently. It sounds almost absurdly simple, doesn't it? And maybe that's precisely why it gets overlooked. We've been deeply conditioned to believe that real medical solutions have to be complicated, expensive, patented, and pharmaceutical. That if it doesn't come in a prescription bottle or require a specialist referral, it can't possibly be powerful enough to matter. But your retina doesn't care about complexity or price tags. It cares about lutein, about zeaxanthin, about having enough antioxidant protection to survive another day of light bombardment, and about the deep, truly restorative sleep that gives it the window to repair the damage before tomorrow starts the cycle all over again. I want to leave you with something that I find myself thinking about more and more often as the years pass. Your eyes are not just organs tucked behind bone and muscle. They're your primary interface with the living world. Every face you recognize across a crowded room, every sunset that makes you stop mid-step and just stand there, every line of a handwritten letter from someone you miss, every expression on your grandchild's face when they laugh. All of it flows through 2 impossibly delicate structures roughly the size of a quarter, suspended in fluid behind thin layers of tissue at the back of your skull. They are extraordinary, and they are heartbreakingly fragile. We protect things we value. We lock our doors without thinking. We change the oil in our cars. We back up our hard drives and put cases on our phones. But how many of us, honestly, how many, actively, deliberately protect the biological machinery that lets us see the people we love? If you're watching this right now, wherever you are in the world, whether it's late at night and you can't sleep, or early morning with coffee getting cold beside you, whether you stumbled on this by accident or because something in the title spoke directly to a worry you've been quietly carrying for months, I want you to do one small thing for me. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Your city, your country, wherever you are. Tell me if you've noticed changes in your vision that you've been brushing off. And if someone came to mind while you were listening to this, a parent, a partner, a friend whose eyes aren't what they used to be, send them this video. Because sometimes the most genuinely powerful thing you can do for someone you love is share something that says exactly what they needed to hear at exactly the right moment. We spend so much of our lives looking outward, at screens, at schedules, at the relentless scroll of other people's curated lives, that we forget to look inward. To stop and ask the simplest question, what does my body actually need right now? Not what the commercials say I need, not what the latest wellness trend promises. What does the underlying biology truly require to keep functioning, to keep regenerating, to keep letting me witness this one extraordinary life? Sometimes the answer isn't a pharmaceutical breakthrough. It isn't a revolutionary procedure or an experimental therapy. Sometimes it's a fruit, green or gold, fuzzy-skinned, slightly tart, sitting quietly on a kitchen counter while we reach past it every morning for something faster, more convenient, more familiar. Your eyes are waiting. They've been waiting for a long time. Maybe tonight, give them what they've been asking for.